And then as I sort of started looking more critical at what other museums were doing and what worked and what I didn't think worked in terms of visitors coming through if it was going to pay its way. Yeah. And sort of got into the modelling side, right. Both in full-size figures down to very small-scale figures and in between.
Nigel Ogle, we're here at Tawhiti Museum, South Taranaki, just outside of Hāwera in New Zealand.
Right.
You're known locally as an artist, a modeller, and I guess to a certain degree that's where a lot of the displays in the museum have come from, that background. Yep. Just tell me a little bit about the museum. How did you end up being here and opening?
A building.
What's the summary history?
A building made it possible. A good old dairy factory, yep. Obtained very cheaply, and then just sort of thought, well, I'll collect some old bits and pieces because there was a lot of space here. Right. And that sort of happened overlapping with the teaching for a while, and then decided to go making pottery. Well, that was taken away from me with the cheap pottery that's now on the market, so it was the other option was the collection of machinery and wagons and all that sort of thing, farming type stuff that was was building up rapidly in the museum. Then it became the museum inside the building. And then as I sort of started looking more critical at what other museums were doing and what worked and what I didn't think worked in terms of visitors coming through if it was going to pay its way, and sort of got into the modelling side, right. Both in full-size figures down to very small-scale figures and in between. Yeah. The one behind us here is 1/32 scale, which is a scale I use a lot, but I use quite a few scales. And also use them in perspective, so that bigger in the front, 1/6 back to about 1/75 at the back. Right, so you get that forced perspective, and that works well. But it's very much the art side of it that I probably enjoy. Well, it is the part I enjoy probably the most. Sort of, you do still collect things as people bring them in, and some wonderful things arrive. But yeah, we've found that it's the models, the dioramas that people comment on. When people are coming out, they say, "Oh, look, do you make this? Do you make that? How do you get these? Where do you find those?" And they're not talking about the collection as such, although they do a lot with the machinery side of it. That's I wonder where all the machineries come from. Yeah. But yeah, it's the models that work. Right. It's the art that works.
So, I mean, as you say, the 1/32 diorama that's behind us at the moment, so that's telling a story about the 19th century, the intertribal warfare. Yep. So we've got a lot of that history here with artefacts and items as well. And then through on the other side, you've got a lot of life-size models with more later 19th century, early 20th century machinery, farm equipment, yep. and so on. So were you building both of those sort of sides?
Always trying to tell stories that people can relate to.
Right.
Because we just, with people coming in, you get all sorts of wonderful stories about their family and things that they've heard, and you start to write them down. We don't push it particularly hard. You just, after a while, they start gelling in your mind. And think that is a story that should be told because people would be able to relate to it, I'm sure. Yeah. And so it's storytelling. I mean, museums generally do this now. More and more.
To a lesser and greater extent.
That's true.
You've got the museum that's telling the history, but then you've got those that are into the infotainment area almost, haven't you? So.
Yeah, well, we do that. With Traders and Whalers, it's very much it's a non-artefact based ride into history
so
back at that time.
You ride through.
We don't do it all like that, but I think there's space for both ways of telling things. Right. Variation's the main thing. Different people relate to different things.
So it's certainly walking around today, and it's been a couple of years since I was here last. Walking around, you do have that variety. So family going to turn up here, completely different interests, but just about everybody's going to get something out of it.
Absolutely,
in one shape
that's what we hope. Yeah. They can relate to it at some level. Yeah. Children, of course, that's always been difficult when you've sort of got an old building full of old junk. Not interested. Yeah. But soon as you can sort of put child figures in, sort of telling stories through a child's eyes, or even just having children figures in amongst all the others in some way. I mean, there was always children there in history, but how often do we actually tell their stories or tell it from their viewpoint? Yeah. And we try very hard to do that. And kids, we just hear them telling grandma and granddad that they're with and say, "Look, that boy's doing it," or the girl's doing it. What's going on? Oh, I see, he's going to threaten to put that teddy bear in the hay baler. And I mean, he doesn't notice the hay baler particularly as an artefact,
No.
but it's telling this little human story
Yeah.
of the boy threatening to put his sister's teddy bear in the hay baler or something, or the brother or whatever. Yeah, and it works,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because that's the level I'll get through when they come through at 5 or 8. But when they come through at 12 to 15, it's a different level I see again in the stories, and because there's adults that come through and see it completely differently. But that's what we try to do, is tell those stories so that people can relate to them at some level.
Right.
And that's the challenge.
Certainly when I was here last, it had been an even longer period since I'd been here before, and the farm machinery aspect of the collection had grown considerably. And I think you mentioned to me earlier on that even since then you've added a couple of sheds on here or there, so the collection, the displays are continuing to grow by the sound of it.
Yes, unfortunately they do. Of course, machinery takes a lot of shed to house and costs, and then once you've got them up, you've got maintenance. It's a worry when there's sort of limited income coming in terms of, the only income is what comes in at the door. But there are some things you just can't turn down. The Butler brothers with their hedge cutters and sweeps were keen to sort of see them all put here and tell their story, and we're still doing that. There's still stuff to go on the wall, but you saw with the Meccano part of it, that was part of that story. Again, to try and get kids to relate to the, they look at it, he's making a model of a hedge cutter or whatever. We've still got photographs and things to tell, and trying to get, Lou's given me a lot of stuff that we're still sort of sorting through, and just there's so many stories there. But what a story, it's just, it's unique, and the hedge cutters are unique too to this area.
Right, so it's, in terms of the history, a lot of it is South Taranaki history, isn't it? So people can come in here and actually find out what we're doing locally.
I don't think generally we try to tell the national story at all. Sometimes you have to give, like to the Musket Wars, you have to give the national story of context to sort of where it fitted in with what was going on in the rest of the country. So sometimes you do have that reference. But largely, no, it's pretty much the local story and things that we hear and books that we read and so on, and try to make it interesting, try and get people to engage with it. That's what it's all about. Whether they're kids or adults, try to get them engaged at some level with what you're doing, otherwise it's pointless.
Well, I think you've done a great job here, and I mean, certainly there's plenty of car parking out front. You've got Mr. Badger's Cafe here for people that want to stop in and have something to eat. You've got the shop, you've got knickknacks in there for the kids, and you've got some engagement for them. So how often are you open? Is it a 7-day-a-week operation? Or?
Well, we have 3 seasons. Winter, that's June, July and August. We're only open 1 day a week, Sunday.
Right.
The bulk of the year we're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday, 4 days a week. And then we do a short stint from Boxing Day to the end of January. We're 7 days a week through those peak of summer.
Right.
So there are 3 seasons.
So presumably all that details on your website.
Yep.
So we'll put that on the video for people to check out and have a look at, and next time you're in Taranaki to come over and take a look.
Thank you very much. That's great.
No worries.
Excellent.